Hi, today I'm looking at Fight Club by Chuck Palahniuk. I'm sure you've seen the movie or read the book. They both follow along this similar story. The ending is different, but the story is the same within the covers of this book as the movie. And I was thinking about when I was reading it. When I finished, I was thinking about how it sort of relates to how what I could sort of get from this this reading of this book. And one thing that really stood out was when you fight, you're thinking about fighting, we think about blood, sweat, tears when we fight, and those sort of words we also use when we create something. So I was looking at this book, or thinking about this book as, what about if it's just about creativity? I think it sort of is. There's probably a lot you can get from this, but this is one theme, I think. So you think about creativity, you think about often, many of us who create things, I like to write, I like to write stories and things. You might like to draw, make comics, paint, sew, cook, whatever, fill in the blank. And when we do this, we often, most of us have full-time jobs, and we're doing this in the off hours, the hours when others are resting. So we have like almost our own split personality. We have our full-time job or our part-time job self, and then we have our creative self, which, of course, it would be nice if that person is usually the same person, but we take on maybe just a bit of a different feel when we sit down to do our creative work, our creative endeavor. Uh, so I think, going along those lines, you've got the main character who has the split personality. With creativity, we often have to juggle our full-time job and our creativity, our creative endeavor. Um, and then you've got the blood, sweat, and tears, excuse me, which we relate to when we talk about some creativity. After I finish writing something, I say to others, or I even feel like, oh wow, this really I took a lot out of me. It felt like it was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. It's a common phrase used after we finish a piece of work. And then also with thinking about the Fight Club, it's they talk about, don't talk about it, which is what often people say about creativity. Don't talk about it too much. And especially when you're in the beginning of something, or if you're working on something, it's often good to just try and not talk about it too much, just to keep the I don't know, keep the edge on it a little bit. It just sometimes helps with the creative process. Um, and then I was also thinking about, okay, the Fight Club. There's many scenes in here where the main character goes into an establishment, and he will see a bartender with a blackened eye, and they will smile at each other. So if you are following your creative endeavor, maybe you're reading books. If you love to read, you get on a train, and everyone's, or a train or a bus, and everyone's on their smartphones now. And then you get off the bus and you're walking down the aisle, and you notice another person reading a book, and it's like a war wound. It's like you see that sometimes you look at each other, or even if you're sitting across from each other, you might look at each other and like give a little smile, or just like you'll both look at what book the other person is reading. Much like some of the scenes in here when, two characters meet and they have like blackened eyes or something, and they will give a little smile, because they both know that after their full-time job self, or their working hours self, they are they're fighting for their creativity. They are fighting in the Fight Club. They are reading books whenever they can. They are writing stories, drawing comics, making cakes, sewing. They're doing whatever they want, or whatever their creativity endeavor is. So I think you've really got that in there. And then also you think about the Project Mayhem. Like, you think about sometimes you'll read in the newspaper, there'll be an article. Like in the book, there's an article, like this building blew up, or this happened, or this car was trashed. And, most people just read that article and they're like, I wonder what happened there. I think the same goes when they see maybe a new sculpture in a shopping center. Most people walk past or they'll read an article and they'll be, oh, I wonder how that happened. But really, there was a whole project behind that. In the book, it's Project Mayhem, and they do, like they commit crimes. But in the creativity world, you have a group around you, and you all work towards this project, and then it will be an installation in a shopping center or in a shop, or in there will be like a whole project behind it, much like what they go to with the book. So I think there's some great themes about how to work hard, how it feels to be creative. Maybe Chuck really was struggling with some creativity when he was writing this, or he wanted to like talk about his process. Maybe his process when he was, before he wrote this book, and when he was sort of going up or working hard at his creativity. This is the way he went about it. He was doing it at nights, and he was, maybe he was making zines, and he was photocopying zines in his office, and then his boss would find his zines, and it wasn't manifestos, it was actually zines, and his boss would find the zines, and his boss knew that he was copying zines after hours, or when he shouldn't. And then, so you've got, and then, so in the book, it starts with that, and then it starts with meeting other members, like a zine club, or like an art gang, or something like that. And then it starts with meeting other members, and you don't really talk about it to the public. You just keep it, and you find your little group, and then there's like a one zine fest, and then there's another zine fest, and another zine fest, and then you're interconnected in these zine fests, like the Fight Club was interconnected, and you can go to another area, and you might be in another zine fest, and people will smile, and they'll know they'll know your zine. Like when Tyler went to the other side of, he went to another city, Philadelphia, I think it was, and the bartender knew him, but he wasn't sure how he knew him, but he'd heard of him, but then it gets a little more complicated. But maybe that's what it's all about. Maybe the book's just about creativity, and it's not really about fighting at all, but it's about fighting for your creativity. I don't know, just some thoughts. Thank you.